This is the Golden Gate. It's the east gate. It's known as the Mercy Gate to Jerusalem. As you can tell, it's been sealed up for a long, long time.
The gate long sealed for the return of Jesus has just swung open. What happens now? Known as the Golden Gate in Jerusalem, this historic barrier was locked in the 16th century, fulfilling a prophecy by Ezekiel. He foretold that it would only open when a prince, recognized by Christians as Jesus, returned. Could this startling event signal a monumental occurrence? Let us explore what this could mean for humanity's last chance to be with Jesus. The sealed gate of prophecy, Jerusalem's eastern portal. The Golden Gate shutdown links closely with a prophecy from the biblical prophet Ezekiel in chapter 44, verse 13. Ezekiel predicted that the gate would stay shut until a prince, who Christians believe is Jesus, comes back. This gate isn't just an old structure, it's a powerful symbol of the path to eternal life through Jesus, showing a direct link to salvation as described in the Bible. The Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate, is a significant landmark in Jerusalem. It isn't just a physical barrier, it's a symbol frozen in time that shapes our understanding of the past and our hopes for the future. The gate's story is deeply meaningful to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. This ancient gate is important not only to the layout of Jerusalem, but also to the spiritual stories of these major faiths. Historically, the Eastern Gate is believed to be the entrance for the Messiah into Jerusalem. This belief is rooted in religious prophecy, especially in Christianity and Judaism, adding deep spiritual importance to its sealed doors. But this isn't the only interesting part. Sultan Suleiman sealed the gate in the 16th century, which was more than just a defensive or architectural decision. It was a deliberate act with religious meaning. Many saw this as fulfilling biblical prophecies, a sign that these ancient predictions were coming true and that significant events were approaching. The closed gate is a powerful reminder of the connections between faith and history. Human decisions can echo through time, affecting spiritual and future expectations of different communities. Each layer of understanding reveals more about our human spirit, our search for meaning, and how our stories and beliefs are linked to the physical world around us. But there's more to this story. The closing of the gate is not just a historical event. It's a powerful symbol of the Christian belief that Jesus is the only bridge between people and God. This symbol becomes even more meaningful with the hope of Jesus' return. Many believers think that when Jesus reopens the sealed gate, it will be a significant event, marking his return and the fulfillment of God's promises. This belief connects the past with the future and ties together prophecies, historical events, and core beliefs, showing a continuous thread through Christian teachings. God's plan to save humanity is complete, and his kingdom is now established. This brings us to a historic gate in Jerusalem, a city important to many religions and the site of many key events, which adds special meaning to its existence. This gate is important for more than just its structure. It symbolizes God's lasting promise and the hopes of the faithful. For Christians, this gate is a strong symbol of cherished traditions and the expected return of Jesus. It's not just an old relic, it's a living symbol that continues to inspire and make people think, both believers and scholars. It shows the lasting power of faith, connecting the physical and spiritual worlds and influencing today's religious thoughts. Jerusalem's old city is surrounded by strong walls with 8 main gates. The Eastern Gate, facing the Mount of Olives, is especially notable because it is closed and considered the oldest. Built around 520 AD, Christians call it the Golden Gate because of its historical and spiritual importance. It plays a big role in the ongoing story of faith and prophecy in the region. But this isn't the most surprising part. The Eastern Gate, with its rich history, is a symbol of hope and fulfillment for many believers. The fact that it remains closed adds a layer of mystery and significance, leading to various interpretations and prophecies. The gate's closure is believed to be connected to important events in religious texts, making it a focal point for those studying prophecies. Its position facing the Mount of Olives also ties it to significant events in the life of Jesus, further deepening its importance in Christian tradition. Yet there's more to this story. The gate's presence in Jerusalem, a city that has seen countless conflicts and changes, serves as a reminder of the enduring nature of faith. It stands as a testament to the city's resilient spirit and its pivotal role in the spiritual lives of millions around the world. Hebrew stories, the Sha'ar HaRachamim, also called Sha'ar HaRachamimi, is an important place. It is the closest point to where the Jewish temple used to stand, making it a special spot for Jews to gather and pray. This gate was closed off by Ottoman Sultan Suleiman in 1541. The gate we see now has a double entrance leading to two arched rooms, showing the 16th century style. This gate, known as the Golden Gate, is on the north side of the eastern wall of the Temple Mount. It has been built and rebuilt through different historical times. It started during King Hezekiah's reign, then improved during Zerubbabel's time, the Hasmonean dynasty, and especially the Herodian period. The current gate is believed to be built over an older gate from the same wall. Beneath the sealed entrance, you can still see an arch from the ancient gate, showing its long history. The gate's hidden purpose reflected ancient rituals and beliefs. The marble pathways. But this wasn't the only view. Rabbi Eliezer argued that the path wasn't just a simple road, but was made of marble pillars and cedar boards. It wasn't for everyone. It was for the high priest and his helpers during big religious ceremonies, like the rituals with the red heifer or the scapegoat on Yom Kippur. This special gate, called the Shushan Gate, had a unique purpose and was crucial for these important religious practices. Some historians argue that the gate we see today was built around 520 AD during the Byzantine era. They believe it was part of Emperor Justinian I's many building projects in Jerusalem. This gate was built on the foundations of an older gate. But there's another view. Some think the gate was built later in the 7th century by Byzantine craftsmen working for the Umayyad caliphs. But this wasn't the most interesting part. Dutch archaeologist Leen Ritmeyer, who studied the gate in the 1970s, believes the large gate posts inside are from an even older gate, probably the Shushan Gate. This gate is mentioned in Mishnah Midat, chapter 1, verse 3, as the only gate in the eastern wall from the First Temple period. Philosopher Maimonides noted in his Jewish law that during the Second Temple period, someone entering through the east gate would walk on flat ground until they reached the end of the rampart. Then they would climb 12 steps to get to the court of women. This shows the gate's historical and religious importance in ancient ceremonies and processions. Each step was about half a cubit high and deep. During the Ottoman Empire, a small recess on the west side of the Golden Gate became a center for making bricks. These bricks were crucial for repairing and maintaining the buildings in the Haram esh-Sharif, also known as the Temple Mount. Nearby, a small mosque was built to serve the brickmakers. However, in the 19th century, the Sultan ordered this mosque and part of the gate's wall to be demolished for more improvements. This led to the construction of 2 new arches and a new section of the wall on the gate's western side. But that wasn't the worst part. Getting to the gatehouse from the Temple Mount involved a wide staircase leading down to a rectangular ground floor, 24 meters long and 17 meters wide, with thick exterior walls. This area was smartly divided by columns into 2 equal parts. Below the ground, in an underground tomb, the top of an ancient arch was visible, with its lower stones still buried. This showed that the original ground level was much lower in the past than it is now. The Ottomans later turned this closed gate into a watchtower, using its old strength for new purposes. This change is just one example of the many adaptations this site has seen over the centuries. But this isn't the end of the story. The Golden Gate is a stunning example of clever architecture. Unlike the other gates, which blend seamlessly with the surrounding walls, the eastern side of the Golden Gate sticks out 2 meters, making it stand out. This gate has 2 beautifully decorated sides, showing off the skills of its builders. The structure has 2 main passages, which you can clearly see in its design. On the ground floor, a vaulted hall is divided by 4 strong columns into 2 aisles. These aisles lead visitors to the Door of Mercy, called Bab al-Rahmah, and the Door of Repentance, known as Bab al-Tawbah. Upstairs, there's a room with 2 grand roof domes and 3 pairs of smaller domes over the paths below. But this isn't the most intriguing part. Historically, the eastern side had 2 large doorways, each with a semicircular arch and a decorative band, divided by a strong column. These doorways, each 3.90 meters wide, were sealed during the Ottoman period, giving the gate a solemn look. The design of the Golden Gate looks very similar to other buildings in the Levant region, showing a mix of cultural influences. The main hall, which you enter through the gate's openings, leads to a rectangular domed area that is 20.37 meters long and 10.50 meters wide. Originally, this space had 6 shallow elliptical domes, but they were later changed to 2 larger domes. These domes are supported by arches that rise from 2 pilasters at the entrances and 2 central columns, creating a beautiful rhythm that guides visitors through this historic and spiritual space. But this isn't the end of its story. The combination of these design elements, the rich history, and the blend of cultural influences make the Golden Gate a truly unique and fascinating part of the Al-Aqsa area. It's not just a gate, it's a passage through time and culture, showcasing the incredible craftsmanship and architectural genius of its creators. The Golden Gate's design features a unique point where the facade extends 2 meters from the wall. This unusual feature makes us wonder about the gate's purpose and historical importance. The Golden Gate has a long and interesting history. It has been opened and closed many times over the centuries. Muslims first sealed it in 810. Crusaders reopened it in 1102, but Saladin sealed it again in 1187. Later, Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent restored the gate in the surrounding city walls in 1541, only to seal them permanently. This closure has lasted to this day. Suleiman sealed the gate for more than just defense. The sealed gate, Suleiman's legacy and prophecy. Suleiman's choice to seal the gate might have been for defense, but it's also tied to religious beliefs. Jewish tradition says the Messiah will enter through the Golden Gate. Knowing this, Suleiman, aware that Muslims see Jesus as a Messiah too, possibly sealed it to prevent any false messiahs from entering. To make sure, the Ottomans built a cemetery in front of the gate, thinking that Elijah, who is expected to come before the Messiah, could not cross a cemetery. However, some Jewish laws allow certain exceptions for priests to enter cemeteries. Recent times, Israeli authorities closed access to the Golden Gate on Temple Mount in 2003 because it was being managed by a group linked to Hamas. This was also to stop unauthorized construction by the Islamic Waqf that was damaging ancient Jewish artifacts. Despite these issues, the gate's interior was reopened to Muslim worshippers in February 2019. However, the gate itself remains sealed. This ongoing closure shows how history, religion, and politics continue to shape the story of the Golden Gate. Over many centuries, the walls and gates of Jerusalem have been torn down and rebuilt many times. The Eastern Gate stands out as the oldest, staying in its original spot throughout history. During Suleiman the Magnificent's big reconstruction between 1539 and 1542, this gate was left unchanged. Large stones from the 6th century BC, likely placed during Nehemiah's time, show its deep historical roots. But this wasn't the most interesting part. In 1541, Suleiman decided to seal the Eastern Gate. This was more than just a construction decision. It had deep meaning. It fulfilled a prophecy from the biblical book of Ezekiel, written over 2,000 years earlier. Suleiman's choice to block the gate was intriguing because of his Islamic faith. Yet it highlighted the connections between different faiths and the shared importance of this ancient city. The sealed gate faced challenges too. During the Six-Day War, some Jewish soldiers wanted to force open the Eastern Gate. They thought it would be a big victory. However, an Orthodox Jewish leader strongly opposed this. He believed the gate should stay closed and only be opened when the Messiah arrives, a belief rooted in religious tradition. But this wasn't the end of the story. In World War I in 1917, Muslim authorities planned to destroy the gate entirely to break the prophecy's power and take control. However, their plans failed. On the day they intended to demolish it, the city came under British control. This unexpected turn added another layer to the historic and spiritual complexity surrounding the Eastern Gate, as each group's actions seemed part of a larger, unseen pattern of destiny and belief. Jewish rabbis believe deeply that the Messiah will come as a powerful military leader from the East. They think this savior will enter through the Eastern Gate of Jerusalem, signaling freedom for the city. To stop this from happening, Muslims sealed the gate centuries ago and placed a cemetery in front of it. They believed no devout rabbi would cross a graveyard, keeping the prophecy from coming true. But this action only highlighted the prophecy they tried to stop. This mix of actions and old predictions is also seen in the New Testament. In Acts 2, Peter quotes the prophet Joel to explain the events of Pentecost. Joel's words are usually linked to the second coming of Christ. This ties back to the Golden Gate, and it's mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 1-2, where it's suggested this gate will be important in future events. Peter, using this prophecy, without Jesus mentioning the Eastern Gate, hints at a deeper meaning. Maybe the Golden Gate gives us a small preview of what's to come. The term foretaste, meaning a preview, lets us carefully see the Golden Gate as an early sign of the future Eastern Gate in the Millennial Kingdom. However, we must balance this view with the Bible's clear teachings, not just old events or beliefs. Some theological experts discuss the belief linking the Golden Gate with Ezekiel's visions of a temple gate. But these ideas differ. Many scholars say Ezekiel spoke of a temple gate, not the current Golden Gate. There's also an interesting Jewish tradition saying the sealed Golden Gate is linked to the expected return of the Shekinah, God's presence in the Messianic age. This makes the Golden Gate more than just a gate. It's a symbol of hope and divine promise. It hints at the East Gate that might appear in the future Millennial Temple, marked by its special spot and long closure. Through all these traditions, scriptures, and human actions, the story of the Eastern Gate remains a key part of the talks about Jerusalem's destiny and the unfolding of divine prophecies. Nearly 500 years ago, Sultan Suleiman, a prominent Muslim leader, made a bold move by sealing the Eastern Gate of Jerusalem with 16 feet of cement. This wasn't just about strengthening defenses. It had important religious meanings too. Suleiman likely wanted to stop any events that could match Christian prophecies about the Messiah's arrival. The Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate, is central to biblical prophecies and intrigues those who study religious predictions. The book of Ezekiel in the Bible talks about this gate several times. For instance, in Ezekiel chapter 10, verse 18-19, it mentions the glory of the Lord leaving the temple through this gate, heading towards the Mount of Olives. Later in Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 23, this glory returns to the temple from the same direction. The prophecy of the gate links past events to future hopes. Unlocking prophecies, the Eastern Gate's mysteries. In Ezekiel chapter 43, verse 1-5, the prophet describes the glory of the Lord re-entering the temple through the Eastern Gate, symbolizing a significant spiritual renewal. However, Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 1-2 adds an interesting twist, stating the gate should be shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has passed through it, suggesting no one else is worthy to pass through it after him. But this isn't the most intriguing part. Ezekiel chapter 46, verse 12 talks about a prince allowed to use the gate for offerings. Many believe this is a direct reference to Jesus Christ. This ties in with the New Testament account in Matthew chapter 21, verse 1-11, where Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem mirrors the prophetic return of the Lord's glory. Muslim authorities sealed the gate, and some see this as fulfilling the prophecy to shut the gate permanently. This sealing has led to ongoing speculation among those who believe the gate will only be opened when Christ returns for his second coming, entering Jerusalem through the now closed Eastern Gate, as foretold in Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4. But the story doesn't end there. This interpretation sparks debates and keeps people guessing about the future, focusing on the day when the Eastern Gate might open again. This event would hold deep religious meaning for believers around the world. The Golden Gate is very important in the spiritual and historical context of Beit al-Maqdis, especially during the time when Muslims ruled the area. People like Ubadah ibn al-Samit saw deep connections between the eastern wall of this sacred place and beliefs about the end of times. Famous Islamic scholar Ibn Kathir explained that this wall is not the same as the one mentioned in the Quranic verse, so a wall will be put up between them with a gate therein, from Surah number 57, verse 13. But early Islamic scholars often used it to explain their understanding of this scripture. This explanation might have started the tradition of burying the dead just outside the eastern wall of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The name Al-Ramah for this gate suggests it has ancient roots, possibly going back to when it was first built. This name hints at a deeper symbolic link to the site, especially the sacred rock associated with themes of the last day. So Bab al-Rahmah can be seen not just as a physical gate, but as a symbolic entrance to paradise or divine mercy, adding to its spiritual importance within the community. This gate, constructed in the early days of Islamic rule, stands out as a key structure in the area. From a Jewish perspective, the Eastern Gate is also very holy, believed to be where the Shekinah or divine presence appeared and will appear again when the Messiah comes, according to the prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 1-3. This belief shows the gate's lasting sacredness and might explain why, during medieval times, especially the Crusader period, Jews gathered here to pray for mercy at what they saw as a gateway to the divine. The Golden Gate, found in the heart of the city near the Western Wall, is rich in religious importance, earning its name Sha'ar Harachamim. In Christian writings outside the Bible, this historic gate is the setting for an important meeting between Mary's parents. This is where the idea of the Immaculate Conception begins. Many artworks show Joachim and Anne meeting here, illustrating key moments in Mary's life. Some experts believe this gate is the same as the beautiful gate mentioned in the Bible's Book of Acts, chapter 3. But this idea is debated. The confusion comes from mixing up the Latin word aurea, which means golden, with the Greek word horos, meaning beautiful. But this wasn't the only confusion about the gate. The Golden Gate also plays a big role in the story of Jesus' life. According to the Bible, Jesus entered Jerusalem through this gate on Palm Sunday, riding a donkey. This act fulfilled a prophecy made by Ezekiel in his book, chapter 44, verse 1-3. The Synoptic Gospels support this story, adding to the gate's historical and spiritual importance. Through these stories, the gate stands as a symbol of key moments in faith and prophecy in the city's religious history. The story starts when Jesus came down from the Mount of Olives and quickly went to the Temple Mount. This is described in Mark chapter 11, verse 1 and chapter 11, verse 11. Meanwhile, the Gospel of John tells us that the Pharisees were watching this important event, maybe from the Temple Mount as well. For those who believe in the prophecy from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 44, verse 1-3, the Golden Gate has a deep spiritual meaning. For Muslims, this gate is called Bab al-Rahmah, which means Golden Gate, and it's also seen as the gate of eternal life. But that's not the most interesting part. This site isn't just an old and beautiful building. It's a place filled with deep religious importance. Muslims believe this is where Allah will hold the final judgment and where the resurrection will happen. This shared respect for the same gate by Christians and Muslims shows a special connection between the two faiths, each seeing it with its own spiritual importance. But what makes this even more fascinating is how both religions find common ground in this one place. This shared significance adds a rich layer of meaning and history, making the Golden Gate a powerful symbol for both faiths. The Golden Gate's history is rich with cultural layers. The Eastern Gate's role. The Golden Gate in Jerusalem is an important spot when talking about the coming of the Messiah, both in the past and in the future. This place is full of history and has often been the center of many arguments. Jewish customs and stories not found in the Bible inspired medieval Christian artists to depict the life of the Virgin Mary. These artists illustrated the meeting between Jesus' grandparents, Joachim and Anne, at the Golden Gate. This meeting symbolized the ideal of purity in marriage for Christians. But this wasn't the most interesting part. The tradition of a groom carrying his bride over the threshold may have started with the symbolism of the Golden Gate. In medieval art, the idea of the Immaculate Conception of Mary was often shown in paintings of the Virgin and Child with St. Anne. These artworks, known in Italian as the Materza, showed three generations: grandmother, mother, and son, creating a visual link across the ages. This imagery had a big impact on Pope John Paul II, especially in his work, Theology of the Body. His writings, collected under the title Crossing the Threshold of Hope, aimed to deepen the faith of Roman Catholics by exploring these themes. Through his philosophical work, Pope John Paul II wanted to help believers understand the deeper meanings of these sacred encounters and symbols, encouraging a more profound engagement with their faith. Just before the start of a new millennium, many important works began to talk about the problems of materialism and the rise of secular attitudes. This time was crucial as the difference between the physical world and the spiritual one became very clear. One strong symbol of this is the Golden Gate, often seen as representing the mystical body of the church, which is honored as the bride of Christ in many traditions. Christian teachings about the end times, called eschatology, the first light of dawn in the east, reminds believers of Christ's resurrection on Easter Sunday. It also points to the direction from which Christ is expected to return. This idea is deeply rooted in Christian traditions. For example, many churches are built to face east. Additionally, the layout of many old Christian cities includes gates that open towards the east, showing the spiritual belief and expectation. But this isn't the only thing. This architectural choice shows a deep respect for the important events of Easter morning. It also reflects a hopeful look towards the future return of Christ, mixing both remembrance and anticipation, which are key aspects of the faith. But there was more to it. The emphasis on facing east in both buildings and city layouts wasn't just about direction. It was a physical manifestation of a spiritual belief. It was a way to keep the hope and memory alive in the daily lives of the believers. Furthermore, the symbolism extends beyond architecture. This alignment towards the east is a constant reminder of the promise of a future return, linking everyday life with profound spiritual expectations. It's not just about the past or the future, but how these beliefs shape the present, guiding actions and decisions. But that's not all. This practice serves as a continuous thread that connects believers across time, providing a sense of unity and shared purpose. It's a daily reaffirmation of faith, bridging the gap between historical events and future hopes, making the spiritual journey a part of everyday life. Many cities' religious items are placed in important spots. They serve two main purposes: protecting the city from danger and giving blessings to travelers. For example, in Vilnius, Lithuania, there's the Ostra Brama. This place is home to the icon of Our Lady of the Gate of Dawn, respected by both Roman Catholic and Orthodox people. This mix of protection and spirituality can be seen in other historic places too. The Eastern Gate of the Old City, also known as the Golden Gate, is important in Christian stories. It's believed that this is where Mary's parents met again after the Annunciation, making it a symbol of the virgin birth of Jesus. Also, some stories say Jesus passed through this gate on Palm Sunday, adding to its significance. But this isn't the most intriguing part. Over time, the sealed Eastern Gate of Jerusalem has become more than just a physical barrier. It symbolizes many historical events, spiritual prophecies, and deep faith. The story of this gate is complicated and connected to many important religious moments. From its closure by Sultan Suleiman to its mention in the Bible by Ezekiel, the Eastern Gate invites people to explore its rich history and spiritual meaning. These events make it a key spot for those wanting to connect with the historical and mystical parts of their faith. The gate, rich with religious history, holds an important place in the city's layout. Over the years, it has witnessed many significant events, becoming more than just a structure. It's a deep symbol connecting the earthly with the divine. For centuries, it stayed closed, standing strong as a symbol of the timeless bond between people and the divine. Does this ancient gate's enduring legacy truly connect us to the divine? Or is it just a symbol shaped by human perception? Leave a comment and subscribe for more.